Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising 2021. Well, this year actually starts with the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, which is the 12th house. And it's going to affect us for the next 20 years. So it means in the year 2021, whatever you put foundations on might determine your social role, because Saturn and Jupiter indicate what is your social position, social role in the world, basically. And it's going to determine it in a big way. And for Pisces, this is happening in the 12th house. Actually, the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction is happening at the end of 2020, but the whole 2021 is under its influence. So, very important year. And where this places you, as Pisces, collectively, it means that the universe has a goal for you, that people with strong Pisces, especially Pisces rising, moon in Pisces, and even sun in Pisces, that for the next 20 years they will be playing important roles in society connected to the 12th house. And the 12th house is one of the houses of psychology, one of the houses of healing, one of the houses of letting go of the past, one of the houses of spirituality and psychic connection to the invisible worlds. So many Pisces will play such an important role in society, will be able to change society over the next 20 years with their healing abilities in fields connected to spirituality, messages to the invisible world, to a faith and belief that there is life after death. The 12th house also rules, the departed, the invisible realms, the realization of something higher beyond ourselves. So whatever your career is, doesn't matter. You will play a certain role in society, many Pisces, starting possibly from already 2021, that will alert others to the existence of invisible realms. And this is something that Pisces are naturally born with this affinity, with this realization that the external world is just a very small percentage of what exists, because the Pisces naturally is the sign of the invisible worlds. And that 99% of where the real life is, actually where the real consciousness and where the real life, the busiest life, is in this 99% invisible. The invisible 99% in higher dimensions, higher, lower, whatever. You're naturally attuned to this realization. And as Pisces, no matter, even if you're a banker, if you will, in your environment, in your social environment, for many years ahead, you would be bringing this realization to people. And the 12th house also rules imagination. The imagination, the higher worlds, that everything is created already in the higher worlds. I mean, everything that will ever be created, that has ever existed and will exist, it exists there in a thought form, as an idea. And the 12th house is how the ability to quiet the internal dialogue and to connect, somehow to download those divine inspirations, sometimes they might be from the lower realms that you download. Depends where you align your consciousness, whether you download or upload, information from the infernal realms. They're lower also astral layers with thicker density, in a sense vibrationally, but somehow you'll be able to tap into the collective subconscious or in the invisible world and download inspirational thoughts, inspirational ideas of a very of that you might not be able to manifest immediately. It might take a couple of years, 2-3 years, until Saturn comes into your first house, before you can present it, before you can see the results of that. But you're starting to get those downloads, basically. And it means that for the next 20 years, you'll be connected. Pisces will be some of the most inspirational creators of art, of music, of, anything. The imagination is the 12th house. So anything that, any career that requires you to use your imagination. You might be a software programmer who programs computer games, who creates computer realities, some create some alternative worlds for people to escape reality. You might be a book writer that writes beautiful romances or novels or imaginary worlds. Anyone who uses the imagination this is the energy of the 12th house. So these two planets really activate for you this energy for 2021 to align to the invisible worlds, to start hearing this divine voice there, or this your invisible spirit guides is the 12th house as well. Oftentimes people can receive very clear messages from their spirit's guide or from their departed loved ones, mothers, fathers, grandparents. Saturn rules elderly people. So if a grandparent departed, they might be helping you in the next couple of years while Saturn is in the 12th house. Jupiter is great benefactors, people that, spirits that are more evolved than us, like spiritual teachers might be trying to give you messages and signs, and it can happen through a psychic that you can get some of the best psychic reading you've ever had. Well, Saturn and Jupiter in your 12th house, especially Jupiter in 2021. I remember 12 years ago when Jupiter was in my 12th house and I had started doing astrology, and I was a bit in a hole. I was not sure where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, or I kind of knew I wanted to do astrology, but I didn't have the courage. So I was kind of in this suspended state of the 12th house. And I called my first psychic then. And that was the best psychic I've ever called, actually. And without knowing anything about me, she just told me, you're going to become famous around the world. She said, like, you're going to be teaching people something, your spirit guides. She basically lined out the whole life that I had in front of me. Plus, she told me who I was going to get married, and to the T, my ex-husband, basically. Back then I got married to this person. So I had one of the most enlightening readings, and to be honest, after that I've had really good readings as well, but nothing that compares to this. Almost like when Jupiter transits, so very strong activation of this 12th house, there is a portal that opens between you and the invisible worlds, and you are deemed because we're not always allowed to receive instructions from above, from the invisible worlds, or call it from your higher self, from your guides, from God, whatever it is. But when those planets, especially the two biggest planets in our solar system, they'll put so much, they'll work on opening those portals, like you're allowed by the universe to access that information that usually is not allowed for us. Information guidance from spirit guide, so to speak. You might dream it. Some of you might dream those things. I can give you an example. Saturn and Jupiter were in my 12th house for the past 2 years. Jupiter for the last 1 year. So I'm first-hand experience what's going to happen to you, Pisces. And I'm going to share my experience. Sorry, this is the Aries talking in me, who is always gives my own stories. But I think that's the best way to learn, by examples. So what happened for me is that for the past 2 years, I would zone out a lot. And this is something that Pisces are very known to do. They kind of disconnect from reality. And now it will be even more intensified in 2021 because of your 12th house being triggered. 12th house has naturally Pisces energy. So you kind of disconnect from what's around you in reality. A lot of you can start feeling that from 2021 and even a bit into 2022. And you kind of start, because the goal of 12 house is to put you in touch with the invisible realms rather than get distracted by everything around. So I almost naturally started zoning out. I would be cooking and my head is somewhere else. I would be playing with the kids, but my head is in imagination, in other realms. And it felt like download, especially last year, and just Saturn was there, but still, it's strong activation. And I downloaded within a week, like like a vision, and it wasn't all in one go. I would see some parts on Facebook, I would see some parts from other inspirational people, whatever, or other businesses, but it's kind of this idea formed within a week. It felt like I'm pulling ideas from above. And I started preparing on that. And I knew I was not going to be able to materialize it and bring it out and see the results of it before Saturn and Jupiter leave my 12th house. So I just started preparing, getting ready, working on the softwares I've envisioned, working on the structures, but still it drags out. Usually when Saturn and Jupiter in the 12th house is more the planning stages, where you are grabbing those ideas from the invisible world, when you start visualizing, dreaming type of thing, and by the time, and if you have the clarity, you start preparing about it. Maybe you have to study and research something in order to materialize this vision you have, or this creative imagination thing that you saw. Maybe you need to, some of you might have to start doing it behind the scenes, without, it's not visible. Before Saturn moves into your first house, or Jupiter at least first, which happens from 2022 fully, you won't be able to fully materialize what you're going to download, what you're going to visualize for the next 1 year. And it's fantastic time when Saturn and Jupiter in the 12th house to start researching. And oftentimes a person might not be clear even what they want to do. I was lucky to download this information because I realized it will need like 2 years. What I had to, that's why maybe the universe sent it to me as an inspiration. It came in dreams as well. It was like a 1 week of onslaught. So you can connect to such ideas, visions, and so on from the invisible world. It's almost like it was not my plan, It was, placed there. So such things can happen. But I want you to arm yourself with patience, because while planets are in the 12th house, it's so hard, especially if it's from your ascendant, very likely from the moon as well. From the sun, maybe not so much, but when planets are in the 12th house, Saturn and Jupiter, that's the preparation time. And that's when it's like if you want to grow crops, for example, you can't just, just go put the seeds. You have to till the earth. You have to study and research. How do you grow seeds? How do you plant it? How do you take care of it? So fantastic time to study, to research, to start in your mind visualizing how it might work out and what is needed. Or some others of you might, but it takes almost like a couple of years, mostly. And then when the planets move, Jupiter from 2022, Saturn from 2023 into your first house, Pisces, that's manifestation time. And I often advise people while they're having Saturn in the 12th house and Jupiter, not to rush to start something totally new that they have never done before. They can start preparing for it, but they can start studying, but not really. Don't launch a business you've never done before while Saturn and Jupiter in your 12th house, especially from ascendant, maybe even from moon and sun. Don't launch don't switch totally careers from one branch to another that you've never done before. Again, prepare. What you can do when planets are in the 12th house, you can start other things that you already have experience about, that you have clarity about, because the 12th house is about completions and not totally new beginnings. You can start planning for that new beginning, but it will be born, and preparing and maybe doing the initial stages. If you have this vision for a company, it might take you 2 years to put everything together, the resources, whatever. And that's the invisible work that you can do with Saturn and Jupiter in your 12th house for a year or even 2. And when they come into your first house, voila, it's creation time, or it's manifestation time. You're gonna start seeing the results materially, or you're gonna start basically. The 12th house is let me give you another example. Is if you want to build a house during the 12th house, Saturn, Jupiter, you might be like, okay, I want to build a house. So You go talk with architects, you envision, you dream, you make a vision board, you gather pictures from magazines and online and paste them, and you look at things, how you want rooms and whatever, you dream about it. You kind of think, what do I need to do to make this reality? And then when they move into the first house, it's symbolically, I'm giving again as an example, it's when the first dig into the foundation start, the first dig for this property. And I'm not talking you're going to be doing property, but compare it to anything in your life. So that's when the real hands-on dirty work starts, when they move from 2022, 23 into your first house. So don't force yourself, don't push yourself. Actually, when Saturn and Jupiter in the 12th house, you have to give, or in the 12th house, you have to give yourself more slack. Give yourself some slack. Is that what the expression? And if you're someone who is used to always having material results, if you're someone who is always used to do, you might feel a bit frustrated while Saturn and Jupiter in your 12th house, because you might have those visions and ideas, but maybe outside circumstances beyond your control, because 12th house also rules those things, will not allow you to make them happen until the planets move into your sign of manifestation. Now it's, let's say, in astrology, the 12th house rules the period of pregnancy, and the first house is the birth itself. So you're gestating now. When Saturn and Jupiter move into a 12th house, you are getting pregnant with something new, even like a pregnant woman, if you've ever been pregnant, or whether you're a man, it's a pregnant woman just at the end is like, oh, I've had enough. Won't you come out at length, at the end? So I want you not to despair if you feel like those dreams you're having, those ideas that are coming to you at that time, if it's taking longer than you expected to manifest, if there are delays, just like when I started when I got this idea, and it is connected to something I've done before in astrology, but it's on a totally different level. And I was like, wow, all those planets in my 12th house. And I found I had to organize 20 people to work on this project. And they were all telling me, in 6 months, it's been 2 years. I'm still waiting. And I kind of knew to prepare myself that it's going to take way longer, because I knew that it's only going to manifest when Saturn and Jupiter enter my first house, which is about to happen. And so for you, I want to warn you to have the patience. Don't get frustrated if things get delayed. Remember, this is a time more of gestation rather than of birth yet. And give yourself some, time to relax as well. It's so important. The 12th house is the house of escaping reality, escaping the hum and drum, escaping the worldly responsibilities. And because the soul is preparing for a new incarnation, for a new chapter of your life. That for many of you will come from 2022 when Jupiter enters your sign, and for others 2023, 2024. So 2022, 3 and 4 will be big years for Pisces for big changes, where they can direct things according to their visions, where they can manifest things, where they can become movers and shakers and put those plans into action. But until then, is this I forgot what I was saying. Yes, this phase where the soul needs to, in order for you to start a new chapter, which you'll be doing for a few years after 2021, you need first to take off the luggage and the unnecessary baggage, psychological, emotional, material, physical, that you've been carrying, because the 12th house is the last house before a new cycle starts, which means that you'll be ending 2 cycles simultaneously from 2021. One Jupiter cycle, which is ending a 12-year period, and one Saturn cycle, which is ending a 30-year period, 29-year period.